welcome to one of the internet's most popular news podcasts with your host, Kurt Kelly. Is corona just like the flu? A lot of people believe this, especially on the conservative side. They don't think there's any real anything. Tell us what's different.
Well, in some ways it is, some ways it isn't. The ways that it is like the flu are, it's asymptomatic, but instead of being half day to 2 days asymptomatic like the flu, it's upwards of 14 days asymptomatic.
2 weeks?
2 weeks, meaning you're radioactive potentially up to 2 weeks before you start showing signs, or you don't show signs at all and you just recover.
But you can, whether you felt better, bad or not, you're still spreading it to other people.
Absolutely, and we're going to
because you're radioactive.
Yes, and we're going to get to the numbers and how that explodes.
Certainly.
But it's the R naught factor. All germs have them. All viruses have them. It's how sticky it is. How much does it want to spread? The R naught factor for the seasonal flu is a 1.9 on a 10 scale. The R naught factor for measles is a 7.1. And anyone listening to this video that has done any research on measles, they automatically know it's one of the most contagious bugs we've ever messed with. Measles can sweep around the globe. How fast? How fast? You've heard it sweep around the globe?
Oh, yes, within a few months.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's because it's got an R naught factor of a 7.1.
Incredibly
infectious.
Infectious, yes.
Well, corona's not far behind. It's a 6.9. Now, Stumblebum Retard Boy, he tried to stumble across one of the virus first, it's a snap count question. It's one of the first 5 questions you want to answer when you...
You're talking about our dear leader, of course.
Yes, Donald Trump. Yes. Retard Boy.
Yes.
He tried to stumble upon, back in the day when he was calling this a Democratic hoax. Then it magically go away, kept on doing those waves. It's just going to magically wave away. Well, honey bunny, you don't have a bigger boogie board big enough for this wave. What he was trying to stumble across is the thermal plane question. Is this thing going to be knocked down by heat? It doesn't die by heat. No viruses die because of the atmospheric heat. 400 degrees, we got you. By atmospheric heat, no virus dies. In fact, it's a perfect petri dish to live in, even in the hottest places. What it does, if it does do it, it's going to knock down its R naught factor, its ability to reproduce. That is the big factor that the heat barrier answers. And with this one, the heat barrier, we got 0 results. But there's a second question, the humidity barrier. Once again, no humidity level kills it, but it lowers its R naught factor, lessening its ability to reproduce. Therefore, you get a few people sick, you don't have a pandemic. Well, we do have that answer, and we do have some good news. One of the little bits of good news we've gotten from this bug. In high humidity places, the R naught factor seems to be dropped down to a 4 to a 4.5. Still a nasty bug. Still something you got to quarantine for. Still something you got to do the tracing for. Still something you got to do lockdown for. But it's not as bad as a 6.9, and that's what we're dealing with. If you look at the world globe and you see the humidity and the heat lines, you'll see white, blue, green, or yellow, green, pink, red, devil tape red. And that's what you'll see. And you'll see them wrap around the globe in the jet stream. Well, this thing is hardcore in the yellow and the green, which is about 60% of where everybody lives on the planet. So yeah, it's going to spread like wildfire, which it already is. So on the R naught factor, on the contagion factor, on the asymptomatic radioactive factor, it's like flu, but a lot worse. But a lot worse in every factor. Heat controls flu breakouts. Humidity controls flu breakouts. This one, a little bit, but not much. Where is it not like the flu? Okay, conservatives, listen quickly. I, shockingly enough, actually got sick this year. 2 weeks ago, I was down for a whole day. I was pissed too. I don't go sick for all. I'll go 4 or 5 years without getting sick. I was mad. I was angry at my immune system. How could you allow me to do this? Fuck up and get sick. I was mad. But I'd not be down for one day. Next day I sat out of cock. The day after that I was perfectly fine. If I had slept through that entire period, I wouldn't have known I was sick, correct? And when I woke up 2 days later, I would have been feeling perfectly fine, correct?
Okay.
No residual measures, no residual factors, no residual illness continues after the flu or the cold. When you're better, you're better. So for corona to be like the flu, it's going to have to match that trend line, isn't it? Problem is it doesn't. One of the things corona does is it obviously attacks the lungs. It puts in crystal sculptures in CT scans, these crystal sculptures. I forgot exactly what they call them, but they harden the lung. They make it unpliable.
So this is where this term plastic lung comes from this disease.
Right, well, it was originally from smokers and emphysema and things like that, but it gives the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
I can assure you the lungs are nice and jiggly and pliable. They're nice and loose. If you took them out of the body, you could slap them and a wave will go through. That's how it's supposed to be, so it can expand and accept oxygen and air and nutrients that your blood needs. When it gets hardened through emphysema, through heavy smoking, through lung illnesses like corona, it gets hard. It doesn't want to move anymore. And when your hardened lung persists after illness, you have a residual effect of illness. All of a sudden, it's not matching the trend line of a flu.
So there's going to be many tens of thousands of Americans on ventilators for the rest of their lives because of this.
I mean, maybe not ventilators, but
oxygen.
oxygen. They can't walk upstairs.
They will never function again as they once did.
They're seeing 20 to 30% of the severe patients coming out with residual effects. So no, to answer your question, this is not like the flu. The average person when they get sick with the flu with the R0 rating of 1.9, they will on average can get 2 people contagious with the flu. With corona, you're on average to get 3 or 4 people contagious. Now, if you just double that flu contagion out, 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 to just 10 cyclings, you're like 1,900 people. With 3 to 4 contagious per person, you're at 60,000 in the same 10 doublings. Do you see the difference between a 1.9 R0 and a 6.9? Massive difference between the two. And that's just 10 doublings. You go out to 100 doublings, now the numbers are like this. It just skyrockets. And the flu is still high, and it still sweeps around the globe, and it's still shitty, but it's a known quantity. We have vaccines for it. We have ways to tamp it down. We have ways to treat it. This is an unknown quantity. We don't have weapons against it.
So when Dear Leader is telling his followers to mass in churches on Easter Sunday because it's a special day, it's his special day too. When he's telling people this, he's actually giving many of them a death sentence.
Many of them, yes, depending on their illnesses, their age, and there again, I mean, we would have known this if our pandemic response team was in Wuhan in December, but it couldn't be because he defunded it 2 years before that. And a side note, President Obama, I've got tons of issues with President Obama. I'll throw that boy under the bus any day of the week, and I'll give you 15 reasons why I'll do it. But I'm still objective. I'm still objective. I'm not gay, but I know Brad Pitt's a good-looking guy. That's called being objective. No, I don't think Barack Obama was a good president. To the people, to his followers, to the people who voted for him, not at all. For economic reasons. But now come to the question, was President Barack Obama a competent person? Fuck yeah, he was. He was a very competent person. You may not like what he did, but he was competent. So guess what he did to the Global Pandemic Response Team after SARS broke out in 2009?
Please.
By the way, numbers of SARS. That one was far more lethal. 34.5% death rate. Woo! But only had an R0 value of 2.9. So with proper testing, proper tracing through the CDC, we can lock it down, tamp it down. And that's what he did. Million tests in the first month. The second we had the first case of SARS in this country, 1 million tests 1 month later. We're not even a million tests now.
Yeah, here we're this far in, and we still are not testing the way we should test.
Right.
Good. Talk a little bit about the testing
I'm
and what
not
needs to
done with this.
Oh, okay.
So SARS, after SARS breakout, got tamped down with proper medical reasoning, proper techniques, proper quarantining, proper patient tracking, proper testing.
You mean developing and believing in science?
Yeah, basically that stuff.
Yeah.
When that got done, he added someone to the global pandemic, actually to the CDC. She was a direct pipeline. She was a foreign Chinese national that worked with another developed country's CDC. You see, that's a bonus when you become a developed nation. You get to develop your own Centers for Disease Control. It's a bonus. If you were playing a game, you would have heard, you've made a bold new discovery. If you were playing a game of a civilization and you got to the point of CDC, you've made a bold new discovery. Congratulations. Continue developing, continue to develop and explore and become a bigger empire. But Obama took a Chinese national and placed her inside the CDC to be a direct pipeline between Beijing and Washington for germ control because they knew that this was going to happen again. Holy shit. Were they Nostradamus? No. They just ran the numbers. That's why it's on the top 10 global threat list every year. Because we can run the numbers. But anyway, he defunds the group pandemic response team in 2017. He fires her about 9 months later. I'm a businessman. I don't want people just standing around. Once again, this is a country.
You mean preparing for the next world pandemic?
This is a country,
yes,
not a company. You can't play this shit like Monopoly. And that's what he's doing, and that's why so many Americans are going to die. But to answer your original question, that's the reason why it's not like the flu. It's a honey badger. Honestly, the CDC and germ people call this virus the honey badger virus. What level of lockdown are we on?
Barely even noticeable.
I'd put it at 25%.
All right, yeah. But that really means that 75% of the country is basically ignoring it, and it's spreading like wildfire.
Wildfire indeed. Bring it back to a Jacob's room. It's a simulator for an infectious disease. And when you got all the balls bouncing around, like normal society, and you get one infected, it takes no time to infect the entire room. And they go through the cycle, and they get better. The point I'm trying to make here is the spike of infection. With everyone moving around, that spike happens quickly and pronounced, and it's ugly. And as soon as you go above your hospital's capacity, you get that jam up, and other people are going to start dying from other diseases that don't need to die. However, in a Jacob's room, when you lock down 1 out of every 4 balls, 25%, and you start the simulation over again, 25% of the balls are stationary. It takes a lot longer for the whole room to get infected. The whole room still gets infected, but that peak blends out, blends over, tips over. And you want that, because hopefully that height of infection stays below your capacity. And then they redid the experiment with 50% of it down. And now you barely even saw a spike at all. Once again, everyone got infected. Everyone went through the cycle. But the went to manageable. The Newfoundland Prime Minister, I forgot his name, but it's hard for me to know this came from a Newfoundland Prime Minister. But he's not locking down his country, at least of a week ago. I haven't checked on that. But he's saying stupid crap like Trump is. Anyone who follows the medical advice of a man that we have on video looking directly into a solar eclipse, newsflash, you shouldn't take that person's medical advice. But some people already have, haven't they?
Unfortunately, yes. Let's talk a second about that unfortunate couple that believed Trump's every word in Arizona.
So we got this new great drug. Actually, it's been out for a long time. It's a malaria medicine. It's a long ass name. I forgot the name of it, but you'll hear it on the media and your news feed if you need it. It's an amazing new drug. It's not a new drug. That's incredibly respectful. It's a true game changer. It's for malaria. He's so dumb that he says it's a new drug and then says what the disease for 10 seconds later, and his Kool-Aid drinkers don't. Wait a minute, you just thought it was a new drug. How could it be for malaria? Malaria's been around for a long time. Yes, and the drug's been around for a long time too. The problem with this drug is it's a big boy. It's not a baby aspirin. A 2x dose can kill you. And that's a 2x dose with no other complications. It does not play nicey nice with other drugs you're taking. This is what happens when doctors look at your charts and doctors look at what medicines you're taking and then make a diagnosis of what you should be doing. Not a fucking fake billionaire philanthropist retard that just spouts off the mouth, can't read a single page of intelligence unless it's got 50% pictures. And that's a real thing. A few months ago, a woman, the League of Women Voters came into the Oval Office and they knew he was going to be so distracted that they had to put a picture of his electoral map victory in front of him. The meeting had nothing to do with anything electoral, even though it was the League of Women's Voters. They were getting something, I forgot what it was, 100th anniversary or something like that. Okay, which is important. But he couldn't be in the moment enough to care about that. He had to look at throughout the entire thing. You just saw him. Oh, look at that. I won Alabama, I did. Go Road Tide, it's all red. And then when further looking in on the map, people noticed that it was inaccurate. They made it more red to capture his attention more. And then at the end of it, you don't want to take medical advice from this person. Simple as that.
Thank you once again, Kurt.
It's just crazy.